Okay, I think we're ready. Hello, everybody. For those that don't know me, I'm Jamie Dorgan. I'm the Director of Animal Care here at the Calgary Zoo. I really want to thank you all for joining me today, and thank you very much for your fantastic support over the past month as we continue to react to our new world and what we're dealing with, especially here at the zoo. We have a passionate group of supporters, we really appreciate everything that you're doing for us so far. My plan here today is to talk a little bit at the beginning and try to address a lot of the questions that we've already received from people and a lot of the questions and concerns that people have had for us. And when I'm done that, I'll look at potentially other questions that people might have that I didn't cover during that time. So there is an opportunity to ask those questions in the Q&A section, which I'll remind you about as I get near the end here. Anything that we don't cover today, of course, we'll cover as well. We do plan on sending out an FAQ to follow up on this so people can see any questions I didn't get to, because I'm sure I won't be able to get to everything. So over the last several weeks here, as you know, with the zoo closed, I guess it's been almost a month now, or just over a month now, the animal care team specifically has been working very, very hard to look after the animals here at the zoo, look after all your animals that you're used to seeing. We've laid off a lot of staff at the zoo, as I think you're aware, about 60% of our staff. But within animal care, to this point, we've been very, very minimally affected. The only changes we've made within animal care are the extra time that we use to interact with visitors. So places like penguin walkthrough and lemur walkthrough and some of those other animal care interactions with people, those are areas that we've made changes to, but really we have almost our entire animal care and veterinary staff. We made a few other adjustments as well. We've been very focused on protecting our animal care staff from COVID-19. So we've asked our staff to be very cautious in their personal life, as we all are out there. And we've done separating teams. Our veterinary team is split in two, and they work on separate halves of the week. Our animal care team starts out of different locations, and we're doing massive amounts of disinfection, personal protective equipment, and scheduling around staggered start times, and a whole bunch of other things in order to try to prevent any transmission this year. Obviously, our concern is that we want to make sure all of our animal care staff stay healthy and are able to show up and look after the animals so that we have all that qualified staff available for that. So that's a big thing that we've done, a big, huge change that we've made, and that's an ongoing thing as new information comes out. We've also, unfortunately, had to stop our volunteer support that we use in animal care, which has had a significant impact on us for sure. Our volunteers are a huge part of what we do in animal care, and they take a big workload off of our zookeepers. So they've had to make a lot of adjustments within our zookeeper team in order to kind of pick up that extra workload. So far, we're doing okay. We're able to keep up, and we're able to give the animals the care they need. So it's going quite well, despite it being a struggle and quite an adjustment. The other thing overall at the zoo is we've tried to minimize any extra expenditures that we don't need. So although our focus on animal care remains top notch and we will not compromise the welfare and the care of our animals, we've had to make a lot of other changes in other areas. This is primarily to keep the zoo in as good a financial position as possible, since we have no idea how long this is going to go on for. Over the last several weeks, we've had fantastic outpouring from our members and our donors, and we really appreciate the donations we've received to date. And we're hoping that momentum keeps building and we continue to receive donations. Those donations that we are getting in make a huge, huge difference, and they're one of the most impactful ways that people can help us is financial support. We've also reached out and applied for as many possible levels of funding as we can from the city, the province, and federal funding opportunities, and we're always on the lookout for those as well, and in what ways we can leverage those opportunities for the zoo. For looking after our animals, as I mentioned, really we're down to almost exclusively animal care staff and other staff that help to support those buildings and the facilities around the zoo. So a lot of our facility staff and other people that we require to look after that stuff. That's kind of what our bare bones is. But even with just animal care, it's about $550,000 a month to look after the animals. That includes the animal feed, supplies that we need for the animal care, as well as the staffing in those areas. As you know, we have around 1,000 animals, about 120 species, variety of different levels of care that are needed for all these animals and different costs. That's both here at the zoo as well as at our Wildlife Conservation Center. So that all adds up to that $550,000 a year, but that's, or sorry, $550,000 per month. But again, that's really just the animal care side of it. That does not include security that we need to keep the zoo safe. It doesn't include a lot of the infrastructure maintenance on a day-to-day basis that needs to be done, and other care of the buildings and things like that. We do have cash reserves. The zoo is in a good position right now because we've always carefully managed. The flood in 2013 was a reminder that we need to always be prepared for that backup in case of an emergency plan, and we are in a good position for that. But every day that we're closed and we don't have revenue coming through the gate, it's cutting into that cash reserve, which we would love to use for other things like improving the zoo in other ways and the bigger capital plans we have. So although we're in good shape and we can definitely go on for a while and make sure that the animals are properly cared for, it does have an impact on us every day that we go by that we do not have that revenue coming in. For us, as I've said already a couple of times, our focus really is on looking after the animals, making sure that they're cared for properly. We've prepared by pre-ordering a lot of feed from some of our suppliers and making sure we have a good stockpile. We're making sure that we have all the produce and other things that we need. Like when we're open, we're very conscientious of making sure that we have the highest quality food available for our animals, and that hasn't changed. We have had a lot of people reach out to us asking if they can donate specific food items or how they can help in that way. Still the best way to help us is a cash donation. Then we can make sure that we're buying the feed from the right sources and it's coming from the normal sources that we get it from. We know it's vetted properly. We know exactly what we're getting, and it's much more efficient for us. We do have limited number of staff here. We don't have the resources to necessarily sort through excessive amounts of feed or things that we're not sure about where they came from and those types of things. So the easiest thing for us is still to continue to get the feed from the regular sources we get it from, and then we know we're in good condition so far. We have not had any major issues in terms of feed supply. The one concern obviously is panda bamboo. That has been a challenge for us for the first year and a half, 2 years of pandas being here. We've primarily sourced bamboo from China, and that is not an option for us anymore, unfortunately. We do have a backup supplier in British Columbia who has always supplied us with some bamboo, and we continue with that. And we're looking at all sorts of other options. So we have been able to continually get bamboo. It has been very challenging for us. We continue to look at all options for getting bamboo, and we will continue to do everything we possibly can to make sure the pandas have the bamboo that they need. But it does change week to week. Every day is a new challenge, and we don't know what those trucking routes are going to be like and what those airline routes are doing and how quick things are going to get to us. So we're working very, very hard to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure the animals have everything they need. Another question we've had a lot is, how are the staff doing? The animal care staff, much like you and your family and friends, are obviously also having to, work through what all these changes in the world mean to them here at work, but also in their personal life. So there's definitely a challenge there. We're very conscientious of that, and we're working really hard to try to keep everyone's spirits up. As you know, we have a very dedicated team that wants nothing more than to make sure they can be here to look after the animals that they consider to be family members. So it's been fantastic that way, but we are, it is a different world, and it is difficult without the volunteers and without that ongoing concern about, what if somebody gets sick, or what if something else changes, what if we have other concerns we need to deal with. So we're very, very focused on that. I mentioned it earlier that we definitely are being very conscientious of trying to protect people, making sure that we're all working safely and we're supporting each other, and that we have the proper PPE and everything we need to be able to do our job. As an extension of that, of course, we are concerned about COVID-19 and potential transmission to animals. It's something we've been considering since we first heard about it coming to North America. We always are very cautious about how we work around our primates, because there are a lot of diseases that people can carry that can transmit to primates. So we're always concerned about that, and we've continued with our very stringent protocols around how we're working with our primates, how our staff are working with them, as well as how and actually increasing the levels of some of those things, so restricting the number of people in the spaces and how we're working in those areas. There was a tiger at the Bronx Zoo that that did contract COVID-19 as well, and as soon as we had more information on that, we were able to work really closely with our colleagues from the Bronx Zoo as well as around North America. The great thing about being part of the Association of Zoos and Aquariums is we were able to reach out to our colleagues, get a lot of information on that, and since then we've increased our caution around how we're working with our large cats as well as some of our other species such as otters and ferrets and meerkats and a few others. And really we're focusing very hard on that as well, just making sure, although we haven't had a known positive case of COVID-19 with any of our staff or anybody that our staff live with, we're treating everyone as if that could be any day now. So we have a lot of PPE. We've had some fantastic volunteers that have made masks for us based on some very specific with some specific material we provided and specific outlines of what we're looking for in terms of that, and that's helped our staff immensely. And we've had a lot of other things that we've put in place to protect a lot of the animals and make sure that our procedures are good. So there, in relation to a few questions, following up on that, we have not had any animals that have become ill in any type of scenario that appears to be COVID-19. We are in a good cash position overall, so we're able to look after animals appropriately. We've had questions in the past recently over a zoo in Germany that mentioned they may start feeding animals to animals. That's nothing that's come anywhere close to our radar. It's not something we would consider. So we're feeling pretty good overall right now where we're at. But as I've mentioned a couple of times, the biggest thing that people can help us with is those donations so that we can keep rolling along. We've had a few questions about because people can't come to the zoo, about what's happening with the animals. You know, what's changed, what's different, what's going on. It's spring, are we having babies, those types of things. I think everyone's aware, but if you're not, we had otter babies born about a month ago, so that was very exciting for us. We're very, very happy about that, and that was part of a breeding recommendation through the species survival program, so that was fantastic. Mom and kids are doing great. She's still in the den with the babies. We haven't seen them out yet, but we expect probably in about a month from now, she'll start having them out swimming. So that's been fantastic. Elsewhere in Canadian wilds, things have been going great too. We haven't had any other kids besides the otter kids, but all the other animals are doing really, really well. The bears are just starting to stir and wake up. I was just walking through Canadian wilds actually just before I came onto this podcast, and I saw Orson sitting up in the tree, getting some sun up there, so it's fantastic. Great to see them. Prairie dogs are starting to stir, and everybody, I think, is pretty excited about seeing some nice weather out in Canadian wilds. Things are starting to dry out a little bit, so that's great. The penguins are doing really, really well. I was in the building the other day, and you know, it's pretty quiet, so you know, that's kind of tough. But the Humboldts are outside now, and they're kind of marking their territory and grabbing burrows and starting to get excited about that point of the season. For a lot of our breeding programs around the zoo, it's business as usual. Definitely, we have breeding recommendations some species, and for a lot of them, those things will continue. There's no reason for us not to. We hope to see visitors here at the zoo at some point soon, and a lot of our breeding programs are very important for those species, so we will continue on like normal. So hopefully we'll have some Humboldt chicks later this season. We'll see how it goes. In Savannah, another, you know, again, as I mentioned, nice warm weather, so it's great to see the lions out more regularly. The lemurs, some of the lemurs went outside for the first time into the walkthrough the other day. Walkthrough with no people, but still a nice lemur space, as everybody knows. Isn't it great to see the vinyl doors open, the giraffes and the hippos outside getting some sun as well. Gorillas have been outside more. Jasiri continues to do great with the troop, and things are going really, really well there, although the gorillas definitely miss having people around to visit with them and kids to play with. They're doing really well, and again, the nice weather helps a lot. Sheldon is starting to spend a little more time roaming around the building a little bit on his own with a bit of restrictions. Since we don't have our trusted Sheldon walkers here, we're spending a bit more time with them, and we're giving him more space that way. And then out in Eurasia, things are going really great out there too. The pandas are are hanging in there. They're doing their panda stuff, which is, as you know, mostly eating bamboo and sleeping. That does not change whether people are here or not. And you know, again, you know, tigers, red pandas, snow leopards are doing great. Pallas cats are out and about a lot more, and hopefully we'll be excited to see people at some time soon. And yeah, everybody else is doing fantastic as well. So yeah, we definitely are seeing with some animals, there's changes with people not being here. Some of them definitely miss that extra interaction. Some of them are surprised to see when people do walk around. So even when I've walked around a little bit, sometimes I'm surprising the animals a little bit because it's so quiet. So the keepers are spending a lot of extra effort on making sure that where those types of enrichment opportunities are gone, that we're providing other types of enrichment in order to increase that interest for the animals and make things exciting for them as well. The other big update, obviously, out at our Wildlife Conservation Center, which most people don't get a chance to visit, but it's out there, and we've got some important work going on out there. We've looked at making some tough decisions and reducing a bit of our breeding out at the Wildlife Conservation Center this year, trying to really balance out that important conservation work that we do. That's the most important thing for us with the financial challenges we're having. So we're unable to fly whooping crane eggs down to the US like we do every year. Even if we wanted to, it's just not possible right now, unfortunately. So we've had to make the tough decision to not be able to fly eggs down for release, but we are looking at hopefully hatching out a chick or two and potentially releasing them next year. That's an opportunity that we're hoping will present itself still during this season, but it is reduced. We're looking at changes to our burrowing owl and reducing our sage grouse breeding programs as well this year, just trying to keep those staffing levels down at a decent level, but still doing that conservation work at some level so we can continue on. So, but the animals out there are doing great as well. The staff is working very hard to make sure that they're cared for properly and to make sure that those breeding programs can continue on into the future and be successful in years to come, even if this year might be a bit of a tougher year. I just want to say again how fantastic it's been, the support we've received. We're receiving countless messages from all of you and the community, great support, which helps a lot. It really helps the staff morale when they do hear those words of encouragement from you and people in the community. It's huge. Your financial support so far has been great as well. I cannot thank you enough for that. That's the biggest and most important way you can support the zoo right now, definitely, and keep us successful as we move forward. And we are hoping that continues to pick up as time goes on here, since we have no idea how long we're going to be closed. Other ways you can help, please keep emailing us or contacting us, you know, and keep an eye on what's going on. You can follow us on various ways in social media, check in on our webpage. You will get emails from us. Paying attention to those things and really keeping an eye on what's going on here at the zoo is huge, and you will keep hearing from us as time goes on here. So that's hopefully covered most of the questions we've received so far, but I definitely want to answer any questions that I didn't cover. So if you look in your screen, hopefully you have a Q&A area within your Zoom. I see there's at least one question popping in there so far. If you have any questions that I haven't covered or anything specific that maybe I breezed over, definitely fire that question into the Q&A area, and I will answer a few more questions for the next few minutes here. And if I don't cover your question or for some reason I don't see it, then definitely don't worry. We'll try to follow up and answer any questions that I may have missed or any questions that maybe I don't know the answer to. So the first question that I'm seeing here is, when restrictions become less than at present, how do you ease visitors back into the zoo in a way that's not overwhelming to the animals? So this one's an interesting one, and we've been talking about it a lot actually, is how do we integrate people back into the zoo? We feel that we will have to slowly introduce people back into the zoo because we're hopeful that we will be able to have people come back in the zoo in a way with smaller numbers and social distancing and everything else. So we do feel that when we do open, the flow is not going to be some overwhelming number of people. And in fact, if we for some magical reason tomorrow somebody said you can have 20,000 people come to the zoo, that's fine, and we wouldn't be prepared for that, and we wouldn't be interested in it. So our plan would be to filter in people in smaller numbers, and definitely in areas that might be higher stress for animals that aren't used to seeing people and are maybe struggling a little bit. We would just be filtering people in slowly. So if you've been to the zoo, a lot of our long-term donors and members have come for places like when we had a gorilla baby, and we've just let a few people in at a time. Even when we open penguins, we limited the number of people through. It would be that type of reintegration, almost certainly. Is the zoo taking extra efforts supporting mental health of staff during this time? Yeah, for me as the director of animal care, this is a huge, huge one for me. It's something we've been keeping a very close eye on. We have fantastic HR department here that supported us greatly in sharing resources that exist and other resources that we can supply to people. So we're definitely talking a lot about people being very focused on their job. As you know, we work with dangerous animals and have ourselves in dangerous situations. We cannot afford to have people making mistakes for their own safety and for the safety of the animals and all that type of thing. So we're definitely paying very close attention to people and their well-being, and making sure that they've got all the tools they need to do their job. How come I'm not seeing Ershun on the panda cam as much? Ugh. As the director of animal care, maybe I should know the answer to this question. It's like all the animals, we make different decisions on different days as to what the animals are doing and where they're comfortable. So if you're not seeing Ershun as much lately, almost certainly it's because she's spending a little more time back in C and probably D. So D, what we call D, is the outdoor enclosure at the back. So she's been actually wanting to go back there more often. So I think she's spending a little more time back there, and our panda keepers would definitely be looking to give her those opportunities. Just curious, are the gardens being maintained? They are. Right now, the horticulture staff, the 2 or 3 people that are still working here are actually today, when I was out this morning walking around the zoo, they were out there cleaning up the winter gravel and the leaves and everything else, just getting ready. We don't know what level we're going to operate the gardens at this year. Unfortunately, we have no idea if we're going to be open this summer or what that's going to look like. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our financial focus on making sure the animals are cared for properly. So the plan is almost certainly to minimize the level of extra garden work this year, but the maintenance of those gardens and making sure that they're ready to go is definitely a high priority for the zoo. And that's maintenance across the zoo overall, is just making sure that those levels are good so that we're ready to turn the corner and be able to make sure that we're looking after your zoo the best way that we can and to the expectations of our guests. Which animals would you say really miss people in terms of interactions? I mentioned the gorillas. We do know that they do often miss people, especially kids. We found that after the flood that we were concerned about what that was going to look like to bring people back. And as soon as we brought people back, the gorillas were very happy to see them again. I think I don't know how many animals, it's hard to say the animals miss people as much as they become more conditioned to having people around. So I've noticed, as I said, the giraffe, when I come by, kind of look at me a little bit strange, which is odd because they're so used to seeing people, but pretty quickly within a month, they're already wondering what's going on, why there are no people around. The peccaries, I found, are having an interesting reaction when people walk by. So there's definitely some of that stuff going on. It's just really hard to know how much the animals miss us and how much, what other things would be going on in relation to what they're thinking. How's Kirby and the beloved caribou? Kirby's great. Another guy that came running over towards me when I was walking by earlier today. He came over to see what was going on. As people that know him, for people that know Kirby, he's quite a people caribou, so he was happy to see me. And the other caribou look really, really good as well. So again, they're another one that I think is enjoying the nice drier weather. Last few visits, we only saw one whooping crane. Previously, we saw two. So we recently made a switch with our cranes. Over the years, we've brought some birds back into the zoo and some out to the ranch. So right now, we have one crane here, and he came here. I think he came over the winter, and he's by himself right now because his mate is part of the breeding program and was switched to another male. That was a better match for them. So right now it's just him, but we have already actually been talking about which birds are going to be switching after the breeding season. So there are some more changes to come with the whooping cranes. I would expect when we reopen, if he's still there, even if he is still there, that it'll be soon that you see some different cranes. So over the years, the almost 10 years I've been here, we've had 5 different cranes come and go from the zoo and out back and forth to the breeding program. So animal health team has been split into 2 rotations, working on different days. Has anything similar been done for the animal care team in any of the sections? What we've done for the veterinary team is split them in 2 halves, on 2 halves of the week, and the veterinary team is still working more than those 2 halves of the week quite often. They're able to do a bit of work from home and work on some other projects and record keeping and things like that when they're not here doing clinical veterinary work. The animal care teams, we've not split in half in the same way. We've done other things. So we actually have a bunch of our animal care staff now starting in the volunteer resources area, using that change room. So we've really tried to reduce the interactions between the animal care staff, shared surfaces and things like that, or by separating them that way, unlike the veterinary model that we've used. Okay, let me see. There's a few more questions here, and I think I have time for maybe 1 or 2 really quick ones. I miss the owls. How are they? Owls are great. They're doing fantastic. The walkthrough is great. They're doing fine. I think I saw a question before about breeding. We did not breed any owls this year, so but that's okay. They're doing fantastic in there. And last question, we used to see 4 camels. Lately there are 2, or the other 2 returning to the zoo. And how's Eva's leg? So the two of our camels are out at the Wildlife Conservation Center. So we moved, when Eva injured her ligament, we needed to move one of the male camel out to the Wildlife Conservation Center to just take the stress off of her coming into breeding season. So we left her and her son here. Jaja went out to keep him company. So they're out there right now, and the other 2, Eva and Goldie, are here. They're doing great. Actually, Eva's doing really well. She's recovering, very slowly getting better. We feel that she will never be completely normal again. This ligament damage she has is almost certainly going to cause her some permanent form of limp or discomfort potentially, but we're optimistic that she can recover to a point where even if she has a bit of permanent damage there, it will not be painful. So we think she's well on her way to recovering. We're hopeful that she is, and then eventually, hopefully, the other camels will come back and hang out with her as well. Okay, so thank you all for joining me today. There's some great questions there. I hope I was able to answer a lot of them. But as I said before, if we didn't answer your question, definitely we will be following up and answering the rest of the questions the best we can. And if you have any questions that you think of afterwards as well, please send those in. We'll continue to try to keep everybody in the loop as to what's going on here at the zoo, how the animals and the staff are doing, and yeah, making sure that we're continuing to get you that information so that we can continue to keep everybody updated. Thank you again very, very much for your support. We greatly appreciate all the moral support we're getting and the great donations we're getting to help keep your zoo running. Thank you, and I will talk to you again hopefully soon.